As promised, I did do a little article about my Cpac experience. I've linked it in the video description below if you want to go and read it for yourself. But I'm going to walk you through it in this video, so you might not need to do that. It's all up to you. Listen, I wasn't even planning on doing a video about this article. I just thought it would stand on its own and it's fine, whatever. But some information got brought to my attention this morning, and I thought it would be a really good opportunity to talk about how two people can be standing in the same place, see literally exactly the same thing happen right in front of their eyes, and have two vastly different experiences with that thing. You see, there is really no such thing as an objective reality, because what we see in front of us is filtered through our brain based on our emotional responses to that thing. So if we feel good about it, we're likely to have a more positive response. We're likely to see more positive things. We're likely to interpret it in a more positive way. If we have a negative response, we are likely to see all the details that we hate and look to twist the perception or the narrative for it to be like the worst possible thing in the world. This is just the way the brain works. That's true of politics. That's true of the workplace. I talk about this in my Playing Politics talk. If you haven't seen it, it is available on my channel completely for free. But the big takeaway here before we dig into this is that there's really no such thing as an objective reality. You and your best friend can have a completely different experience with something that happens right in front of you simply based on how you feel about that thing. Maybe I'll do another video someday about why that is. I'll put that on the list. So this is going to be a video about politics. As I mentioned in one of my previous videos, this channel just by sheer necessity, is going through a little bit of an evolution. I started it as a channel to talk about work-related issues because I'm an organizational psychologist. I care deeply about helping people to create better work experiences by becoming more mindful, achieving greater levels of self-mastery over themselves, doing inner work to reduce their stress, all that good stuff. That was the original goal. And then the politics stuff kind of made me go accidentally viral, and what I'm hearing from people who are watching this channel is that you really like when I talk about the politics stuff. You do, and so fine, I'm willing to play this game. Now, a lot of people, when they do different subject matters on YouTube, they end up creating different channels. I have thought about doing that. I'm not going to do it right now, frankly, because it's just not big enough. It's not a stable income generator for me at all in any respects. The channel just got monetized like 2 days ago. So I'm going to be doing everything in this channel for right now at least, and we're going to see where that goes. You have the ability to pick and choose what videos of mine you watch. If you like what I have to say, I hope you hit subscribe, and so you get notifications when new videos come up, but I also trust that you're probably an adult, and you can probably say, ooh, this video is a subject matter that I like, or no, this one's just not for me. You can make that choice yourself. If the channel continues to grow and this starts to become a more stable source of income and revenue for me, hey, we'll see where it goes then. But let's dig into this, shall we? What I want to do is talk about my experience at Cpac, kind of going through my article. Then I'm going to show you a response I got to the article, and then we're going to look at another article that had a completely different experience of Cpac than I did. I think this is just a little interesting experiment. So my article is titled, "This Liberal Went to Cpac and It Was Nothing Like I Expected." Don't worry, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to give you the high-level overviews. So basically, how I ended up at Cpac was that after my Trump rally article went viral, all these people started calling me, getting in touch with me, and it happened to go viral like, a week and a half before Cpac or something like that. And so everyone was telling me, like, Carlin, you need to go to Cpac, you need to go to Cpac, you need to go to Cpac. Now, I travel quite a bit for work, and so it's not out of the ordinary that I would be able to, kind of get up and jump on a plane and go somewhere. It actually happens on a really regular basis. And so I was kind of game. I was like, well, I don't know, and I work for myself too, so I can make these decisions. But I was like, I basically ended up coming down on the conclusion that if someone gave me a free ticket to Cpac, I would go to Cpac. Fine. Well, ask and you shall receive, and lo and behold, someone was generous enough to give me a ticket to Cpac. I don't know if that person wants their name or identity revealed, so I'm not going to do that, but I am very grateful that they did. It was fantastic. And so I got to go, and I was like, you know what, this is just going to be another new experience. I thought that the Trump rally was going to be my big graduation from listening to people I disagree with, but Cpac is even on like a whole new level of being in a community of some of the most excited conservatives in the country. So as a liberal, I was a little bit nervous. I thought, I'm gonna stick out like a sore thumb. I have nothing to wear. They aren't gonna like me. I swear to God, these are conversations I had with my husband. I was really, really worried. But it was all really great. I actually found it to be a great experience. So let's go through my top takeaways from the event. And listen, this was just my experience. My goal at Cpac was to listen and to learn and to talk to people and just to experience it like any average attendee. I was really trying to go in with an open mind. People assume that I've gone totally Republican conservative at this point. It's just not true. I still have a lot of liberal values that don't really necessarily fit in with the Cpac audience, but I wanted to understand their perspective. I wanted to understand the way they viewed the world. My first big takeaway is that this was a genuinely inclusive environment. So I'll read from my article. Well, I certainly had a stereotypical image of what Cpac attendees would look like. White, obviously. Male, probably. A typical frat boy, the ones I hated in college, came to mind, definitely sporting one of those red hats and engaging in laddish behavior after hours. And while some of those things were absolutely true, there was also much more diversity than I expected. The attendees came in all shapes and sizes. There were a lot of college students who came with their young Republican chapters, but they were balanced out by lots of middle-aged and older attendees as well. I'm just gonna stop right there for a second. So fun story, I didn't write about this in the article. So I actually stayed at a hotel in Alexandria, Virginia, in Old Town, which Old Town Alexandria is like beautiful. If you ever get the chance to go, I really enjoyed my time there. I'd never been there before. So I was staying in a hotel a couple miles away, but there were a lot of Cpac attendees that were there, and I was kind of down. It was like a Hampton Inn, so they have the free breakfast with the great waffles, and so I was down getting breakfast one morning, and I was looking haggard. I was wearing sweatpants. I don't even think I'd taken a shower yet, but I had my red Make Speech Free Again hat on, and I was just eating my breakfast, minding my own business. This really cute older couple comes up to me. I'd never met them before, never talked to them, and they said to me like, "Oh, we're driving over to the convention center in about 15 minutes if you want to come with us." And I was like, oh my God, I felt so bad that I wasn't ready to go yet because I absolutely would have taken them up on the offer. But I said, no, I need to go shower and I'm going to head over in a little bit. But I actually thought that was a really great, that showed me a lot about who these people were, that, just a stranger just trying to help out. Obviously, you're going to the same place, or they assumed I was based on the fact that I was wearing my Make Speech Free Again hat. And they just offered a favor. And I thought it was a really lovely thing to do. All right, back to the article. The gender divide looked to be pretty evenly split, and there were lots more people of color than I was expecting, as well as members of the LGBT community. And I'm going to pause there as well. When I say there were a lot more than I was expecting, I was actually blown away at the level of diversity at this event. I really was. People who think that, this is just a group of racists, you try going to it, you see what you think then. But what was so refreshing was that there was very little talk about race or gender or orientation or anything that would indicate a collectivist mindset. People viewed each other as individuals and engaged in discussions of ideas. Now, in theory, I knew this would be the case, but experiencing it in practice was different. You must understand right now that in the land of the Democrats, everything is about identity politics. Every single thing. And race is at the top of that list. If you're white, no matter what you say you're expected to be contrite in your inherent racism and continually reaffirm your shame in how you were born. It does not matter if you grew up poor or how you've struggled or any hardships you've overcome. All that matters is the color of your skin or your gender or your orientation or your ableness. It is exhausting to have to live in a constant state of self-deprecating purity and to perceive everything in your experience as a struggle between those who have power and those who are oppressed. But it wasn't like that at Cpac. People didn't see each other as a race or a gender or an orientation or a disability. They saw each other as people who are fully capable of stepping into their greatness without a handout. And some of the standouts at the whole event were those that the woke left would call marginalized. Diamond and Silk brought down the house with their talk about personal responsibility and empowerment. I loved Diamond and Silk's talk. It was pretty great. Candace Owens was treated like a rock star. Benjamin Watson gave a deeply touching talk about the importance of family. Brandon Strauch from the Walkaway campaign and activist Scott Pressler, both openly gay men, had crowds lining up to take photos with them. If Cpac was a group of racist, misogynist homophobes, none of these things would have been true. But they were. And it wasn't because the attendees were trying to score virtue points by being more inclusive. They genuinely loved them and admired their contribution that each person was making. There was no talk about immutable attributes. They talked about ideas and their efforts. And it was a really, really surprise. I can't tell you, listen, I want to be very clear on this because I am not dismissing issues related to race in this country. I still think there are very real issues to deal with in terms of race and equality, not equity. Equity is a different thing, but equality, making sure people have access to opportunities, making sure people of all different backgrounds and experiences have access to, equal education and support and all of these things. I think there are very real problems to address. But what I liked about Cpac was they were talking about, it was refreshing. It really was to not have race be at the forefront of every single topic. And that doesn't mean they aren't interested in helping people that aren't white. That's not it. They're interested in helping everybody. Everybody. Everybody includes people who are black, who are brown, who are, everyone, no matter what your race is, what your ethnicity is, they want you to have all the opportunities that you want. And I thought that was just, it was so much of a free environment to be in. It felt very, very different to me. Then I talk about how most of the conversations I heard were about individual liberties. That was a very big topic. It was about individual liberty and freedom and people not expecting a handout because they don't want their taxpayer money to go towards supporting you. But at the same time, they're not going to ask that your taxpayer money go to support them. So there was talk about cancel culture. One of my very favorite panels was actually was with Donald Trump Jr. and talking about cancel culture. And what they said is, they don't want conservatives to get special treatment. They just don't want to be treated any differently. They want to be afforded the same treatment that Democrats get. Another panel that I really liked was with Larry Kudlow and Ivanka Trump. And listen, man, I underestimated Ivanka Trump. I really did. I had never heard her. I think I had heard her speak here and there, but I had never really paid attention to it. She comes across as incredibly presidential. That was all I could think as I was watching her. I was like, man, if she wanted to be president, she could absolutely win in a heartbeat. I think that there's all this talk because Elizabeth Warren just dropped out of the race yesterday as of this recording. And, of course, all these articles are coming out now about how it's all about sexism and it's all about misogyny and it's because she was a woman. And if she was a man, she was definitely be elected president. And it's all BS, guys. It's all BS. I absolutely believe that this country is ready for a female president. They just didn't want Elizabeth Warren or Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton. Though they're not ready for any woman. They want it to be the right woman. They wanted to, and not even that it has to be a woman, but they want it to be the right person for the job. I absolutely believe that if Ivanka Trump wanted to be president after her father, 100% I believe she could be. I think Nikki Haley could be. And frankly, I think that if the Democrats hadn't gone out of their way to assassinate Tulsi Gabbard's character, she would have been, if the Democrats were smart, Tulsi Gabbard would have been the ultimate candidate for them. She literally checks all the boxes. She checks all the marginalization boxes. Woman of color. Woman, period. Person of color. She's also a veteran. I don't know what the heck happened there. But she would have been a great candidate as well. And Condoleezza Rice is probably another great example. Black woman on top of that. There are women who can absolutely be president. It's just the women that they've run so far have been ill-considered. But the reason I liked Ivanka and Larry's panel is it was just this one line Ivanka said. They were talking about creating an environment where small businesses, or I guess businesses in general, can thrive. And she said, we're not going to be able to provide people well, I should back up. They discuss viewing their roles as crafting policies that support an environment that provides everyone opportunities to achieve their dreams. And then Ivanka said, we're not going to be able to provide them, the dreams, but we can create a playing field that enables you to realize your success. And that was really striking to me. And as a small business owner myself, I have to acknowledge, man, the Trump tax cuts, they really did help me. I was shocked at how much they helped me. And I actually felt really guilty about it. I was like, I don't deserve this. Like, there's so many people who are struggling. Like, I don't deserve this. But they really did help and, are part of why my business is thriving today. Last year was my best year ever. I have to give them credit for that. And then I end the article basically asking this question, are conservatives the new liberal? I talk about some of the liberal sensibilities that I hold, but I end it by saying, of all the values I hold dear, freedom of speech is actually the most important. If you want to make me really angry, try telling me what I can't say. My husband will vouch for that, by the way. When I bought my home 9 years ago, the very first thing I did on move-in day was throw a magnet on the fridge that had the First Amendment on it. That magnet is still on my fridge to this day. When I was a teenager, I really thought I would go to law school and eventually join the ACLU to protect freedom of speech. Now they aren't even doing that anymore. And so as I sat at Cpac and listened to all the talks about individual liberties and freedoms, it dawned on me that although there were many things we differ on, I had actually been looking towards the wrong group of people to protect the things I care about the most. Attacks on civil liberties are not coming from the right. They just want people to get out of their business. The attacks on civil liberties are coming from the left. They're coming from people who have convinced themselves that words are violence. They're coming from people who are seeking to ban so-called hate speech as if speech that everyone agrees on ever needs to be protected. They're coming from the social media giants who continue to ban conservatives for absurdly minor things while allowing progressives to harass and bully them with no repercussions. And they're coming from far left groups like Antifa who think that violence against your political opponents is always justified. The conservatives I met at Cpac don't care what the color of your skin is. They care about the content of your character. They don't care about who you love or how you worship or what you have between your legs. They believe in self-sufficiency and empowerment and not paying taxes to support your lifestyle. But in return, they won't ask you to pay taxes to support theirs. And they may not agree with everything you say, but they will defend your right to say it. Don't worry. I'm not running right out and joining the Republican Party. I just escaped the grasp of the Democrats and am perfectly happy sitting in the land of the politically homeless for a while. But if I end up needing to choose between liberty and authoritarianism, I know exactly where to go. So that's my overview of the article. Again, I will link it in the description if you want to go and read the full thing for yourself. But let's talk about the response. Ooh, that's a spoiler. We're going to get to that one in a sec. So Manny here wrote a comment on my article saying, more BS. You attended a convention that predominantly featured Sandy Hook denier Alex Jones. Also, Candace Owen and Diamond and Silk are Republican sock puppets. Now, I responded to him, Alex Jones was featured so prominently that I didn't see him at all. And I said it. That meant to be he. That's a he. That's a typo. And he wasn't on the speaker list that I'm aware of. But nice try. Manny responds to this article, try doing some research. And links over to this article, Cpac 2020, was all about worshiping Trump, hating socialism, and feeling victimized by media and the left. And so, you know what? I thought we'd just take a look at this article, and I can talk to you about my experience versus the experience of Anthony here. Now, before we get into this, though, I think it's important to, let's see who Anthony is. And I truly have no idea who this guy is. I have no idea. Anthony Fisher, politics editor for Insider, previously the site's politics editor. Before that, he's senior editor at The Week, a producer at BuzzFeed. Oh, that tells us a lot. An associate, he's also Reason.com though, so maybe, he's more middle, who knows. Daily Beast, Fox, New York. Okay, so maybe he's more in the middle. Let's look at some of the other articles he's written. And I think this is important context. It's important to know, or at least get a sense of the perspective of the person that's writing. So he said Biden was the Democratic establishment's savior on Super Tuesday, but he's still a dangerously flawed candidate. All right, I can get behind that. I can. We've got the Cpac article, another Cpac article. The anti-Greta climate activist says she's absolutely a fan of far-right podcaster. I don't, like, the girl's 19 years old. I don't know why that makes sense to even talk about, really. Cpac staged a play based... Okay, this play, FBI Ludbirds, I saw this. This play was great. It really was. I very much enjoyed it. Don't fear a Bernie Sanders nomination, Democrats. He's well suited for... I agree with that. Can I just say, side note, I would love to see Bernie Sanders debate Donald Trump. I just think it would be the greatest thing ever. It would be like two drunken grandfathers going at it at the family reunion. I think that would be the best. Mike Bloomberg, Stacey Abrams said of course she would accept the VP nomination. Of course, obviously she would. I actually think Stacey Abrams is going to be who Biden picks for his VP, but I could be wrong. Oh, look at this one. Drop out Joe Biden. New Hampshire proves you're done. Anthony, you missed the mark there, buddy, didn't you? But okay, my perception of Anthony right now, to be honest, and again, I truly know nothing about him. He seems to be like a little snarky like me, like maybe he goes after both sides a little bit. But let's see what he has to say about Cpac. The conservative Cpac, the annual DC gathering, once epitomized Reagan's vision of big tent conservatism. That meant vigorous debates among right-of-center intellectuals representing the neoconservative foreign policy hawks, socially conservative evangelical Christians, non-interventionist free market libertarians, and any other reliable Republican voting bloc. In 2020, philosophical diversity is almost non-existent at Cpac. Wrong. Wrong. No. I met a lot of people at Cpac that they did not agree. I mean, there were people of all different varieties at Cpac. There were people that love Trump. There were people that are like, okay, like Trump's like, he's better than Hillary. There were libertarians at Cpac. There were all different varieties of political opinions at Cpac. So that is blatantly wrong. Save for a panel focus on tech companies' deplatforming of right-of-center voices. That's that Donald Trump. I think that's the Donald Trump Jr. panel I was just talking about, where audience members fumed at some of the panelists' suggestions that government intervention might actually be worse than big tech censorship. There was a lot of universal agreement on the big themes of the conference. Let's see what he thinks his themes are. The major themes of Cpac included: Donald Trump is the greatest president in modern history, and the way he's been treated by the Democrats and the media is unprecedented and abhorrent. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. There was a lot of impeachment unfair, everyone unfair. This is the greatest injustice and travesty in history of America. Now, listen, that doesn't mean they're wrong. I don't know enough about it yet. I'm still in this place where I don't necessarily have a good sense of what's real and what the media has fed me. So I won't make any, I don't know. But I think, I thought that even when I was starting to kind of like red pill, I thought impeachment was stupid. I thought it was bungled. I didn't understand why they didn't charge him with a crime. And so I think that there's probably much more there that I just haven't gotten into yet, but his point one is pretty accurate. Point number 2, socialism is evil, and the moderate 2020 Democratic candidates are barely less socialistic than Senator Bernie Sanders. But yeah, I mean, that's absolutely true. The whole theme of the conference was literally America versus socialism. So yes, that's very true. The left is comprised of snowflake crybabies who are authoritarian bullies systematically silencing conservatives and indoctrinating the younger generation through media and culture. Listen, I'm not going to say there wasn't talk of this, but that was not a bigger theme at the conference than maintaining our individual liberties and freedoms. Absolutely not. I mean, there's going to be talk of that at this conference. Of course there is, but maintaining individual liberties was a far bigger theme than that. I mean, and listen, you got to understand too. I know a lot of you listening to this are probably more conservative leaning, but just in case we have anyone that comes over from the left like me, you have to understand too that like conservatives like to joke and they like to have humor in situations, and most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time when they're throwing out like the snow, like they call someone a snowflake, they're making fun of it. They're bringing levity into the situation. And that's something that is lost on the left right now. It's like no one has a sense of humor anymore. But conservatives joke a lot, and then the left takes those jokes seriously, and then they're like, "Arr." So a lot of it was joking. The right's young stars attacked their culture enemies and Mitt Romney. Yeah, they all hate Mitt Romney, dude. They hate Mitt Romney. Kicking off this year's conference, which was titled America versus Socialism, with Representative Dan Crenshaw of Texas, a freshman member of Congress with a rising national profile. I really like Dan Crenshaw. I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but I think he's very principled. In his Wednesday speech, he warned of this culture war, which he said is going to be the battle of our times. He added that this would be a battle between those who believe America is good and those who believe the notion of socialist revolution, who believe we are inherently bad. I agree with that. Charlie Kirk of Turning Point USA, an influential conservative youth activist group with strong ties to the White House, helped set the small Republican tenor of the proceedings. Let's just address this. The small Republican intent, that's absolute BS. The small tent stuff is going on the Democratic side. I'm sorry. The Republicans have a significantly bigger tent than the Democrats do right now. Joe Biden, of all people, Joe Biden just came out in favor of a moratorium on deportation. Like, are you kidding me? He is supposed to be the moderate voice. The moderate voice, who is obviously not fully in control of his mental faculties, is getting pulled to the progressive left in order to be competitive in the GD primary against Bernie. Are you kidding me? No, the Democrats are the small tent. The Republicans are a much larger tent, and it's because of Donald Trump, like it or not. At the first mention of Mitt Romney's name, the audience booed, and Kirk responded, "Every time his name is mentioned, you should react that way." Listen, they do boo. They boo a lot. Like, any one time someone's name is brought up, they're like, "Arr." But I think they're mostly doing it just because, they're having fun with it. They're in a group of like-minded people, and they're like, it's kind of like roughhousing, like at a party or something, and you're like, yeah, that's what it is. It's not like, well, no, they do genuinely hate Mitt Romney, but but it's not as serious as it's being made to seem in this article. Blexit founder Candace Owens spent much of her Thursday speech attacking former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick as a race hustler. In particular, she referred to a tweet Kaepernick sent last Thanksgiving about the U.S. government's appropriation of land of indigenous people, which she countered with a long diatribe about Aztec cannibalism and human sacrifice. This is a really skewed view of what Candace Owens did. If you have questions about what Candace Owens said, go watch her speech. It's on YouTube, you can watch it. Candace Owens gave a brilliant speech in which she pointed out the hypocrisy of Colin Kaepernick and the hypocrisy of the hero worship that has surrounded him. That's what I think that she was doing. But this is a very skewed version of that. On Thursday, the main ballroom featured FBI Lovebirds, a play starring Lois and Clark actor Dean Cain and Buffy the Vampire Slayer actress Kristy Swanson as FBI employees Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. No, it's not Strzok. I think it's Strzok. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm sorry. The play consisted almost entirely of their text messages to each other that was meant to demonstrate a deep state conspiracy against Trump before the time he took office. And again, this play was fabulous. They did a really good job. And listen, the play was entirely read. It was entirely their text messages and their testimony. So there's no really, they had to pick and choose what text to include, and also the play that was shown at Cpac was a truncated version of the full play. This is actually a play I think they're trying to do on tour, and if you have a chance to see it, I recommend it if you're interested in this type of subject matter, because it was really interesting to see them act it out, and they were also really funny. They really, like Dean Cain, he was funny, and Kristy Swanson was great too, but they were very, very good. Talks about, I didn't see the 19-year-old anti-Greta Thunberg, so I'm not even going to talk about that. I have no opinion on it because I didn't see her. Cpac attendees felt like they've been victimized by the left, and so has Trump. Yo, these people at this booth with these beaded Trump things, again, regardless of what you think of Trump, these people are creative. I remember walking by that and being like, wow. Most of the Cpac attendees insiders spoke with said they felt like they're under a constant state of unfair attacks from the left, just like President Trump. Yeah, I think that's fair. Jeffrey Lord, a Trump supporter and former CNN contributor, told Insider, "I just think people are seriously enthusiastic about the president, on top of which they're also angry about the way he's been treated." At Cpac Central, the event's main gathering hall, vendors sold t-shirts, hats emblazoned with phrases like "free thinkers only," "kiss me, I'm a capitalist," "this is Trump country," where on a quiet night, you can hear a snowflake melting. They're being funny. They're having fun. Relax. An 18-year-old student at the Jerry Falwell-funded Liberty University told Insider that administrators at her Virginia high school had called her parents to compel her to take down a pro-Second Amendment video she had posted on her private Facebook account. She also said that she had been spat upon at her school because of her political views. Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. She says she doesn't care for CNN and MSNBC fake news. Instead, she likes to get her information from a broad amount of sources, including Fox News, pro-Trump One America Network, and conservative YouTubers like Ben Shapiro, whose shows her family will sometimes watch together at family dinners. Steve, I usually skip over the names just because I don't want to butcher anyone's name. I'm really bad at it. Steve, a 53-year-old from New York, and his partner Anna, a native of El Salvador, are proprietors of an embroidery business. They came to Cpac to show off those hammocks, those ridiculously cool hammocks. I mean, again, I wouldn't buy one of those hammocks, but those things are some work right there. You have to give credit where credit is due. They told Insider they wanted to make a present for Trump after all the hell he was getting from the media and the Democrats and impeachment. I thought, let me make a nice hammock for him. Yeah, I mean, this was definitely a theme at Cpac, is people feeling really bad that Trump constantly has to deal with these attacks. And I can't, I get it. I think that they wish that he wasn't, listen, if there's any president that has ever felt the constant weight of attack from his opponents, it's Donald Trump. Like him or hate him, that cannot be an easy place to be. I completely empathize with that. At the same time, dude's the president. He's the most powerful man in the world. He obviously has a thick skin. He knows how to handle it. And I have to say, too, Trump loves to play. Trump loves this. I actually don't think that Trump would be as successful as he's been if there wasn't that adversary. I think he needs an adversary to fight against. And that's only going to make him better. So everything can be a blessing and a curse. Sometimes you might look at it and think it's a really bad thing that he has this constant adversary. But I actually think he needs that in order to perform at the level that he wants to perform at. It just fuels him. Listen, I believe, Trump gets energy from this. This drives him. This motivates him. He's as much as people are coming down on him and saying, you won't be successful at this, you won't be successful at this, he's going to be hold my beer. You watch. You watch now. So that's what I think is going on. Let's see. We're getting opinions from different conservatives. I don't want to go through all those. Cancel conservatives held their own shadow conference, and some were thrown out of Cpac. So, in this response, remember, this is him saying, you attended a convention that predominantly featured Sandy Hook denier Alex Jones. No, I didn't. Because Alex Jones wasn't officially there. Cpac did not host Alex Jones. Cpac did not feature Alex Jones. Now, you have to understand, I can't hold Cpac responsible for the fact that Alex Jones came to town and did his own little thing. They can't be held responsible for that. I mean, come on. But he was not a part of my Cpac experience, though I'm not going to deny that there was stuff going. I heard kind of through the grapevine that other stuff was going on, but I will say, I didn't see it, and I think it was very easy to avoid it if you wanted to. But let's see what he found. For all the complaints at Cpac about being silenced by the left, there were some conservative voices who felt even more aggrieved. Oh, so what you're telling me is that the conservative community has decided to not allow some of the more extreme people in their community to participate in their conference? Is that what you're telling me? And you're dinging them about it? That seems to be what you would want. I mean, I don't know. I wish the left would do that with Antifa and all the crazies. It would make things so much more pleasant. At a private event, Wednesday night called Emergency Save the First Amendment Summit at a hotel in Washington, D.C., several canceled conservatives spoke before a group of 80 attendees. Most of the speakers had either been kicked off of major tech platforms, and some were explicitly banned from attending Cpac. emceed by InfoWars conspiracy theorist Alex Jones. The speakers included white nationalist, I don't know how to say that, Nick Fuentes, Gavin McInnes, Enrique, I don't know who that is. Listen, I'm still learning who some of these people are, guys. I'm sorry. I'm sure I'll learn it over time. I know their names, but I don't really know. I don't know what their deal is. Obviously I know who Alex Jones is. Speakers railed against mainstream conservatives like Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk, repeated the baseless conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein's suicide. Oh, come on. Okay, you know what? There's actually a truck. I posted a picture, I think, on my Instagram. There was a truck driving up and down the street that said Epstein did not kill himself. Like, if you think that's a baseless conspiracy theory, I'm sorry. I completely believe that Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself. Like, anyone with any sense can look at that situation and know what went on. Come on. So I don't think that's a baseless conspiracy theory at all. And lamented globalist elements that they see as hell-bent on destroying Western civilization. McGinnis was kicked out of Cpac the next day after being accused of threatening to assault an attendee. That attendee, by the way, my understanding is that was like an Antifa guy who reported him specifically to get into trouble. Again, I'm not going to defend Gavin McInnes. I'm really not. But that attendee was an Antifa guy. He denied the accusation. Okay, so what you're saying here is that these people are railing against the people at Cpac, and we're going to hold, according to, what's his name, Manny, we're going to hold Cpac responsible for these attendees that are off on another site location railing against Cpac? That makes no sense. Come on. Cpac's undercard events served up culture war victim red meat. I was actually at the panel they talk about on this one too. The conservatives, as victims of the left narrative, continued into late Friday with a breakout panel because Trump, how the left justifies acts of violence. This was actually the last thing I went to at Cpac, and I was really glad I got to go. Controversial journalist Andy Ngo said at the panel, "What we are seeing is the normalization of political violence that's being encouraged not just by the media, but by politicians, leaders, and people who really should know better." Okay, what he is leaving out of this is that Andy Ngo reports, if you don't know who he is, I think a lot of you probably do, but Andy Ngo reports on Antifa in Portland, and he actually got assaulted by Antifa so badly that he ended up with a brain bleed. It was very, very serious, and you can still see the impact of that. I had never seen Andy Ngo in person, but you can absolutely still see that he's struggling to fully recover from what happened. That's my perception anyway. So yeah, if there's like what they did to him was absolutely awful. It's horrific. Go Google it if you haven't seen it, because it was a gut-wrenching thing to actually watch. Scott Pressler. I love Scott Pressler so much. I do. I love him. I have to tell you, I was watching this panel and I was knitting, and because I knit during conferences, and I went up to Scott Pressler immediately after the panel, and I was like, "I love you," and he's like, "You wrote that article. I love you too." And I was like, "Oh my god. Oh my god." Anyway, Scott Pressler, a millennial Republican activist who made a name for himself in conservative circles for picking up trash in places like San Francisco and Baltimore and putting videos of it online, also spoke on the panel. He said the left wants to intimidate, bully, and silence us, and I'm not going to let threats of domestic terrorism step on us. Okay, again, listen, you need more context here. This is why I hate the media right now. I've done enough interviews over the knitting stuff okay, back up, pause. So I've done obviously a bunch of interviews since my article went viral. And one of the things is that all these people who are writing articles, or wanted to write articles about the knitting community nonsense, reached out to me to get my perspective. Every single one of them has either not used the information that I gave them, and I gave them not only my experiences, but also evidence, or they've twisted it so badly that it bears no resemblance to the truth. So the media can go F themselves, so far as I'm concerned. So Scott Pressler, what they don't tell you here, yes, he picked up trash in San Francisco. What happened when he picked up trash in San Francisco? He was protested by Antifa. Antifa literally protested a trash cleanup. A trash cleanup, people. Are you kidding? You don't believe me? Google it. It's all online. I watched this unfold in real time. I was so angry. And I'll tell you too, and I told this to Scott as well. Part of what drove me to go to that Trump rally was watching what happened to Scott Pressler in San Francisco and what happened to the walkaway campaign in San Francisco. And I was so mad. I was like, F these people. I do not want any part of this anymore. That's part of why I made the decision to go to the Trump rally. Rob O'Donnell of the policy advocacy nonprofit group Brothers Before Others warned Trump supporters soon wouldn't be able to go to the grocery store wearing a red hat because somebody doesn't like that red hat. Yep. O'Donnell argued that a solution to avoid such ominous future was to allow the police to use more aggressive force. This isn't right. Use more aggressive force doing volatile public protests with groups like Antifa, the radical and often violent anarcho-communist collective. So I'm just going to pause right here. It wasn't about more aggressive force. That is not what he said. What he was talking about, and again, I was at this plano, what he was talking about was that the police are restricted from using any force. And in fact, they're being told, don't even put on your riot gear. So when he's saying more aggressive force, that might seem like, they're saying like really go out and really show these people what's what. No, the more is from a state of zero. Because right now they're at state zero. They can't use any force against these people. And so anything is going to be more aggressive than that. See how they frame this stuff? It's so crazy. It's so crazy. Specifically, O'Donnell cited the demilitarization of our police. That's not what he was really talking about. Okay. All right, so that's the end of the article. So essentially, listen, I think this is a really biased view. I really do. Everyone is going to, what I said at the beginning, everyone is going to have a different experience with these sorts of things. They're all going to have a different experience. But what was in this article, some of it was reflective of my experience, but a lot of it was a really biased look at it. So don't believe everything you read. Always do your own research. Always go to events yourself to see for yourself. And don't let anyone else tell you what to think. Because if I read this article, I would be like, Cpac's a bunch of crazies. They're not a bunch of crazies. They're fine. It was a wonderful experience. I'm glad I went.